Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I am your host, Kari Schneider, and this is the episode that you need at the end of every year. This is the episode that you use in order to decide what you want to have going forward or what you want to let go of and you do not take forward into the next year. Yes, that's right. This is the ritual that I love so much at the year end. It's our year-end reflection. So today, I'm going to give you some of the reasons why a year-end reflection is key. I'm going to invite you to a live one that we're going to do. And if you don't have much time at all, I'm going to give you a few key questions to start with so that you at least start to think and process what's gone on this year and what you want to let go of and what you want to take forward. Why is this so important? Because we tend to autopilot things. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of research right off the hop. We want a year-end reflection. This is what the best of the best do. But I don't really care about who does what and why it's so important. What I care about is you making the life you really want. And I bet you, if you look back on this year, and some of us don't do it because we don't want to see certain things, but I bet you, if you look back on this year, you're going to see some things that you don't want to continue. You're also going to see some things that could cause you to weep with joy and awe and bliss because it was so amazing and so touching and so fulfilling. So we don't want to miss out on the amazing, and we don't want to perpetuate the awful. That's why we do the ritual of reflecting at the end of each year. So let's go. Let's go and see a few things here. First of all, Harvard Business Review. They found that professionals who regularly reflect improve performance by up to 23%. Why? Why is that? Because when we reflect, we look back, we're looking back from a space of curiosity, from a space of learning, from a space of seeing what was what without being bogged down of the emotional story in the moment. So when we look back 6 months and go, oh, remember when that happened? And you can see things usually with 2020 vision. Interesting. Now, if we perpetuated a story and we haven't bothered to learn from the thing that was 6 months ago, well, that's a different problem. That's a problem of avoidance. That's a problem of not wanting to see any of the things that we may need to take ownership of. So this part of the process of reflecting is going, okay, what did I do? What didn't I do? What was this experience? What did I learn? That's what reflecting is about. We have another little bit here, neuroscience note. So reflection, what it does is it takes, when we look at our amazing brain, like this is the most amazing organ ever. Our brain, it does this stuff. This neuroplastic nature to it. All that means is that it has the ability to change and adapt. But the only way it has the ability to change and adapt is if we actually take the moment to reflect and endeavor to learn from it. What reflection does is it consolidates learning and reduces cognitive load. Bet you didn't know that. So when we think this, say, I don't have time to go through a reflection exercise. My year was fine. I want to head into my next year. I've got some things planned. What we're doing is we're wasting our own time if we don't reflect. When we don't reflect on our day, when we don't reflect on something major that happened, when we don't reflect on our year, we are missing out on the opportunity to help our brain become more efficient. When we reflect and make these little decisions along the way, then our brain knows what to focus on in the future and what to start to eliminate. So it becomes more efficient because now we've made it clear that worked, that didn't, I want more of that, and I want less of that. And this is exactly why. And typically, as humans, we haven't done that. We keep going through the motions on autopilot, going, oh, okay, well, this is what I've always done, and this is what we do, and this is all good. Oh, that sucked, but oh well, move on, move on. That's what we do as humans, because we have this thing called the motivational triad. We want to stay comfortable, seek pleasure, and avoid pain. And sometimes even the act of reflecting goes, oh, that's a little uncomfortable to look at that. I don't want to. But we need to do it if we want to have less of that crap in our future. So here's our reflection. Really, really good. If I look back, I've done this for several years. I don't even know how many years I've done this. But because I've done this, I have a better relationship with my father. I've helped him with his illness that he has and been able to navigate that. I've purchased a property and have been in the process of restoring the property in order to launch a business. I have understood things about my marriage that I couldn't see before, and with the help of professionals, been able to make some really hard calls, make some really hard decisions. I have been able to improve my relationship with every person that matters to me because of doing this exercise. And I've been able to create a business and a life that I absolutely love. It has also helped me through some of the hardest things that I've ever experienced in my life, including a life-changing illness, including mother-in-law with Alzheimer's, father with dementia, and going through divorce. So if I hadn't done this exercise, if I haven't gone through the ritual of reflection, I don't even know who I'd be or how I would have been able to handle some of the big, big life curveballs that have come my way. I really encourage you to explore this kind of thing. So one of the reasons that we do reflection is because we want this thing called integration. We integrate what we think we were creating and what actually happened. It allows us to go, oh, okay, so I wanted this. This is what actually happened. So let me integrate what really came out of the whole picture. What did I learn? How did I miss what I wanted? How did I get more than I thought I would because of what happened? That's where we integrate. So reflection is a form of integration. The next thing that we do, and this is why it works. Scientifically, this works for helping your brain function better. So the other reason why it really works is because it identity recalibrates. So we recalibrate our identity. For those of us who think we are the exact same person that we were when we were 3 years old or in high school, we've always had the same personality, that's possible. However, our identity changes as we learn and adopt new beliefs. And those new beliefs typically come from experiential learning. The things that we've gone through in our life, that helps us adopt new beliefs. When we have those beliefs about ourselves, that's when we create identity. At the end of a year, I don't know about you, but a lot of things happen in my year that I was not expecting. I was not expecting at the least. I was not expecting to separate from my husband. I was not expecting a divorce. I was not expecting him to be in a relationship with someone else. I was not expecting the pain that I went through in this last year. I did not expect any of that. And it has changed me. It has changed me in so many ways. My belief about myself is different. I see things I didn't see before. I feel like I was unveiled and shown a truth that I couldn't see. And that's changed me. And there's so many other things. The book that I wrote and launched and didn't get to fully promote because what was happening in my personal life, the process of the construction and restoration of Wycliffe Lodge that I was hoping to launch and couldn't because of construction delays and other things that had gone on, and still is going to be launched, but it didn't happen the way I thought it would. There's so many things that just did not go the way I thought it would go, and so many things that I gained from it not going the way I thought it would go. So this identity recalibration, we've got the integration. Integration beats information. People consume and consume and consume, but rarely do they actually integrate, which means taking that learning and doing it and activating it in your own life to see how it works or if it works for you. Reflection is the integration mechanism. The identity, the number 2 thing, the identity recalibration, this is where you get to go, oh, this is who I've become. This is who I'm planning to become, but it didn't exactly work the way I thought it would. And this is who I actually became. And this is who I'm choosing to become. That's identity recalibration. You're going to recalibrate where your baseline is of who you believe you are. Number 3, clarity. Oh Lord, if you do not reflect, you are going to continue to automate things that you didn't know were seeping away your energy. You didn't know were actually taking you on a path that you don't want to go on. If you do not actually get clarity, you're going to go toward things that maybe not exactly what you want. So clarity is something that's so important for us to be able to make decisions, have the peace that we want in our lives, have the joy that we want in our lives. Is clarity, knowing what's important to you, knowing what's not, knowing who you are and what you value and who you're not. So the clarity, where we get this, reflection elevates your signal and eliminates the noise or the emotional residue, which in psychology, this is called cognitive drag. And I promise you that based on what's gone on in my life in the last 5 years, I've had so much cognitive drag, and the combination of coaching, therapy, doing my own work, and reflecting every week, every month, every year, that reflection, it reduces that cognitive drag. It has been the thing that has allowed me to stay highly functional and still be able to perform in my work and my family. And based on what's gone on and the kind of hits that I've taken or that have occurred in my life unexpectedly, I wouldn't have been able to keep functioning. I wouldn't have been able to be the parent I want to be. I wouldn't have been able to still continue on with the work projects that I have going on. I wouldn't have been able to serve my clients at such a high level the way that is and continue to learn and serve them. So we don't want to create burnout by autopilot. So you keep autopiloting the things that you didn't know were burning you out. We want intentional leadership. We want you to be creating the life that you want intentionally, leading yourself in a way that has you feel really good about what you've got in your life. And it's not about getting, it's not about what you've gotten in your life. It's about being able to be present to both the negative and the positive in your life and embrace all of that and not make one mean so much more than the other, not make the negative be the only focus and not make the positive the only thing to go for, but understanding, being able to be present to all of it and know that all of it is your life. All of it is your cup. And unless you look at your own life and reflect on what's gone on and learn, you won't be able to embrace all of it and be able to be with all of it, because that is the secret. The secret is being able to be with all of the negative, being able to be with all of the positive in your life, and be able to choose what's my next step. Because I can handle all those negative emotions, I can handle all those positive experiences, and I can be with it all. That's the secret to being able to handle anything that life throws at you. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience here. I literally felt like I could not pick my face up off the ground in my pile of tears at points in this past year. Felt like I literally could not take a step forward. And I remember someone saying to me, it's not day by day. You're not even going to feel like you can get by day. It's going to be moment by moment. It's that. And when you reflect on what you had to do day by day or moment by moment or week by week to create survival, to create thriving, to create an amazing life, whatever it is for you, when you reflect on that, you learn, what am I going to keep? What am I going to discard? And it starts with really, really powerful questions. There's a point in my life where I've realized that my dad had some health challenges, and I reflected. I reflected on how often I saw him. I reflected on how often I wanted to see him. And I realized that I think he was probably around 70 at the time. And I realized that I saw him about once a year. And if he was going to live maybe another 10 years, just who knows, plus or minus, he was going to live another 10 years, then I might see him another 10 times. I thought, wow, that's not very much. And I thought, I'm going to try and go and see him more frequently. And so I started to make a summer trip and a winter trip to see him because he didn't come to see me. And that doubled my time with being able to experience who he was and his wisdom. And I'm so glad I did, because he ended up getting more ill and it made it really, really challenging. But in that time where I started to see him more frequently, it influenced so much. It ended up we had a closer relationship. I ended up purchasing a property and choosing to restore it, which is the Whitcliffe Lodge. It changed my life, that one reflection on the frequency of time that I saw him and whether that's what I wanted. Because if I'd stayed on autopilot, I would have continued seeing him once a year, going in the summertime, visiting him, having a little mini vacation when I was there, and such as such. But because I reflected on that and decided to redecide if that was what I wanted, and redeciding was looking at, oh, this is just what I've been doing, but is this what I want? No, I think I want more frequency, or I think I want less frequency. There might be people that you see every Thanksgiving and you don't want to see them every Thanksgiving. I see this person once a year. I really don't like that. I would like to see them less. I would like to see them once every 2 years or 3 years. That's fine too. But you get to reflect and redecide. I know clients who there were 2 people in COVID who traditionally hosted all of the Thanksgiving. And they had this break in COVID where they couldn't host Thanksgiving, and they didn't. And they were like, huh. They had the perfect reason not to host Thanksgiving, and they loved it. It was glorious. But they got to redecide. And they liked it so much that then they changed how they approached Thanksgiving in the future. Go figure. We can do that. So with my family, I made choices and have done so on every reflection. Last year, one of the questions was about what was I willing to give up doing? What was a belief? This is a specific question. What was a belief I was willing to give up going forward? And last year, I chose that the belief that I was going to give up going forward was trying so hard, that I need to try so hard all the time. And I realized how much that was sucking out of my life, because I had this belief that if I just try harder, and it seemed so noble, it seemed so worthy, made me a good person. I realized that was something I had done my whole life, is try so hard. And I didn't need to try so hard anymore. And I realized I'd used that. It had been an adaptation that I used to get through some times in my life that it really worked for me. But I realized it had turned into something that either my ego or I had started to use as something that was so noble and had me overperform, was costing me my health in a lot of ways, because I just keep trying, even though something wasn't working. Well, maybe if I try harder. And it was costing me so much. And I realized I just needed to stop trying so hard. And I did. And it changed everything in my whole world. I'd catch myself, be like, oh, wait a second. I don't need to try so hard on this. This isn't my responsibility to actually take on myself. And then I didn't. And it blew apart my world. And I'm so grateful that I did that. And yet there was a huge cost. Changed my life. It also changed my health. If I look back each year and I look back at business, so I look back personal, look back at my own private beliefs, what's happened in some of my relationships, and give you a few little examples, but I look back in business. Business sometimes is the hardest thing to look back at for me because I love what I do so much that then when I look back and reflect strictly from a KPI performance or a way of looking at things that reflects on, I do it quarterly and I do it monthly and I do it regularly from business numbers. But I would set the bar so high going into each year. And then at the end of the year, I'd be like, oh, I didn't make this or I didn't make that. But I would see improvements in my business. But it had me realize that I had used my business to amplify what I love in life. Business for me, my business for me was a reflection of who I am and what I love doing. And so if I was just focused on that, then the money will come in, but I wasn't too worried about it. So my business would be very stagnant financially because I was just using it to enjoy my life. I wasn't treating it like a business. I was treating it like a way to have fulfillment. Now, it can be both, but if I'm going to use it for fulfillment, I've got to give an equal amount of value to making sure the numbers work. And if the numbers work, then I can reflect on the numbers in a way that, oh, I grew it in the way that I wanted to, or I maintained it the way I wanted to, instead of just waiting to see how it went. But I felt really good in my business because I love doing what I do. I always love doing what I do, but is it a reflection of the numbers that I wanted to create? So reflection will allow you to get honest with you when you look at the things that you might not have been willing to look at before. But it's going to take some courage. It's going to take a little bit of, okay, what do I have to do here? It's going to reveal to you what's essential and exposes what's been silently sucking the life from you. Or if it's not so dramatic, draining you or burning you out. So it's going to expose, it will reveal, it will uncover. Let the questions open you up to what your life wants to show you so that you can take the control and create the life that you really want. It takes some reflection. Okay. So I want you to, I'm going to give you a real simple framework for reflection. So you can do this on your own if you want to. But the way more wonderful and powerful part of reflection is doing it with us live. That will be on December 17th. If I have my dates right, it'll be from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we will do a year-long reflection. We will go through the questions far more deeply, but I'm going to give you a few if you want to start this now or you want to play with it. The first thing I would suggest you do is go and review your pictures on your phone. Go back to the last January and then review all those pictures and get a sense for some of the things you forgot. Like the trip you took, the laughter you had with so-and-so, the gorgeous beauty of a certain sunrise. Go and look back on your photos and remind yourself of what last year looked like. And then keep it really, really simple. We want to basically go for reviewing some wins, some losses, some surprises. Asking things like, what did this year teach me that I almost missed? And by going through your photos, you'll have been reminded of so many things you forgot. I promise you, you think you know what this last year was, but all you're doing is feeling a residue of what the idea of this year was to you. That's your memory of this year, is this emotional residue of feeling of what this year was like. But when you look back at your pictures, you have photographic evidence of, oh, I forgot this and I forgot that. And these reminders, these visual reminders of experiences, of how you felt, of what you accomplished, of what you did. And you want that. So you go back and remember actually what happened. So then you go back and go, what did this year, like what were some wins? What were some losses? What were some surprises? What did this year teach me that I almost missed? And then we want to be able to go into this zone of releasing, and it's a level of emotional uncluttering. It's more the questions of, when I said, what beliefs am I willing to let go of? It's questions like that. It's questions like, what am I done carrying and I'm not willing to carry into next year? What am I not willing to take responsibility for anymore? Questions like that. All right. So that's more of a release type of zone of questions in the reflection. And then we want to reframe, because this is where we integrate what's happened and what we understand, and then we start to actively change how we want to look at things. That's a form of integration. And then taking action on it is real solidifying integration. So we reframe and shift these narratives that have been so limiting. I have plenty of limiting narratives that I'm working on right now in my reflection process of this past year, because I don't want to take them forward into the new year. And I'm processing them so that it's easier for me to release them. What those might look like, things like, where did I underestimate myself? What am I really proud of with what's happened? What have I learned that's going to help me for my future? Or if there's something that's really negative, what's great about that? Something that's really awful that happened. You can't think of a great thing and you think of something great. What's great about that? Those are reframing types of questions that has your brain re-establish what you're willing to believe about something that maybe you automatically believe some things that feel really crummy. You don't have to feel crummy all the time. There's going to be plenty of negative experiences and feelings in the world. Why make it worse for yourself by believing things a certain way? We can have clean pain, clean negative experience, instead of have greater suffering or adding more to the negative experience. That's why we reframe. We have the opportunity to take the pain that we've experienced or the things that went wrong and find other things. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. What I'm talking about is making sure that we have what we need to go forward. And then we recalibrate, because this is the part that's so much fun. We want to understand, who did I become because of what happened? Who did I decide to be based on that experience? Who am I ready to be? Who am I committed to being coming up? Now, these are some examples. These are just some examples of the kinds of questions that we ask in a reflection. But you can do that on your own. It's so much better and so much deeper when you do it with a group. When you do it on an evening that you've dedicated for this, you send the signal, you teach yourself that this is so important. This is so important. So come on our live event, do it in a group. We'll have more in-depth questions that will unveil the things that you didn't realize you wanted clarity on. You didn't realize we're going to be that shift, that change for your next year. That's where it's at. So the group, we will have the music, we will have the environment, we will have the questions, and it works. It's so good. This is what I use to set up the planning that we do, the empowered blueprint for the next year, for 2026. What I do specifically every year for our mastermind, for my clients, is we make sure we review the values so we know exactly what our personal values are. We go through the year reflection, make some decisions, understand, integrate, let our brain have less cognitive drag. And then Eventually, we get right into the beginning of the new year and we do our empowered blueprint. We create the plan for what we want exactly for the new year. That's what we do. So you're invited to do that. Guided prompts, a free workbook, all of that stuff that the podcast just can't give you. And I will make sure there's a link in the show notes below. So join us. You've got this. Reflections are going to be the thing that give you the brain that is clean, clear, focused. And then you can take that and create the life that you want. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope this reflection, these little questions that I've given you, serve you because they're so powerful, because they make such a difference, because you deserve to have this reflection process so that you can create exactly what you want. You're done with autopiloting the crap, and you are ready for bringing your best. Let's go. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you on our live reflection on December 17th.